Hello and welcome to another Twitch reveal in 10 minutes. This is the Lady Medina, and yesterday we had our first Twitch reveal for The Taken King by Bungie. We had with us Deej and Cosmo, both are our community managers for Bungie. We had Mark Noseworthy, who is an executive producer for The Taken King, and we had Tyson Green with us, also a senior design lead for the reward systems in Destiny, RNG, packages that you receive for reputation gains and stuff like that. The Cryptarch as well, he kind of has something to do with the design for that. First of all, I do want to say that this was not that it was a long Twitch reveal, it was only an hour, but there was a lot of information for us to take from it. A lot of information for us to take. So I'm going to try my best to make this as short as possible for people that, for any reason, do not have a chance to watch a video for an hour or be around for a stream because of work reasons or school reasons, stuff like that. So here I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible to tell you everything that was said in the stream without you having to watch the stream itself. The first thing we want to talk about is levels and light levels. The system for leveling is completely different. Your character level or your experience level is based on everything you have on your character. Also, everything that you have in your vault. And it's like a mathematical equation to calculate your level based on the stuff that you've had, based on the experience you've gained from everything that you've done. The max level is 40. Deej did make it very clear not to dismantle anything before the Taken King, because the stuff that you have and the things that you own do have a say in your level. So let's talk about light level. Light level is an average of the attack from your weapons and the defense of your armor. Instead of you getting a big boost from one piece of armor in terms of your damage output and the amount of damage that you can take from enemies, this system creates a more slow, gradual progress. Ghost and class items such as Titan Marks, Hunter Cloaks, and Warlock Bonds actually have lights and affect your light level as well as your gear and your weapons. Ghosts and class items now have perks just like weapons and gear that will help you out on the battlefield, whether it's in PvE or PvP, and I'll explain a little bit more of that later on. Now, let's get into the main menu screen, the screen that you're always on, all the time, always looking at your gear and your weapons and your super and everything that you have on and your character in general. One thing is that you can actually see the difference in the intellect, strength, and discipline in terms of how they affect the cooldown time for the things that you have. For example, the cooldown time for your super or your grenades, you'll be able to see the actual number. So whether it's a minute or 25 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever it is. And when you equip something with more intellect or strength or discipline, you'll be able to see the difference on the cooldown time. So depending on how much you have of each, you'll be able to see how it affects you and your gameplay. Another cool little thing is that now in the main menu screen, in your character screen, you can actually see your character's face. We also have another screen to look at. It's called the quest screen, where you can see your bounties and your quests. Now we can hold 16 bounty slots instead of, 10 before? There is now a tracking system for your bounties. So you can track a total of 4 bounties, and when you pull out your ghost, you're able to see all the bounties and quests that you were tracking at the moment. Another cool thing is that you can turn in your bounties from anywhere you are. You don't have to be in the tower, you don't have to go to the bounty tracker, you don't have to go to anyone. You can be in the middle of a mission, you can be in the middle of a raid and turn in your bounties at that moment. In terms of quests, we can hold up to 32 quests. So expect a lot of quests, and for quests to be a big part of Destiny from now on, and in the Taken King especially. More of an RPG style for game, and we get quests from pretty much everyone. So whether it's Vanguard, Crucible, factions, everyone gives you quests. Also, the new supers such as Stormcaller, you have to actually do a quest to be able to acquire the super. Let's talk about your inventory screen. So now your inventory screen is going to have a little bit more consumable space, a little bit more material space. I think the difference was like 5 more. Once you start the Taken King, everything is going to have this thing called Spark of Light. Spark of Light is an item that will take any low-level character and bump it up to 25 immediately. Okay, so now that we're done talking about menu screens, let's talk about the tower and some things you can do in the tower and people in the tower and how some things for those people have changed. One small little thing is that in the tower you can now switch your weapons the way you normally do. So if you want to show off your primary, secondary, or heavy weapon, you can do that at any time by just switching your weapon like you normally do. Also, the animation for walking on stairs has been improved so that you can actually see your guardian's feet landing on each step. So now let's talk about the speaker. So the speaker's inventory has changed a little bit. It still has material exchanges for radiant shards, radiant energies, motes of light, strange coins, and it still has class items. However, now they are level 40, and now they have perks, like I mentioned before. Class items do have perks now that change the way you play. In the case of the speaker's class items, they have a perk that increase your Vanguard reputation gains. Now the speaker also sells ghosts, and these ghosts, like I said, also have perks, and they also have a light level. They have perks that help you find things in the environment, for example, Spirit Bloom, Helium Filaments, Relic Iron. Now, emblem shifts and shaders can now be pulled out from terminals or kiosks, and you can keep track of what you do or don't have. So in these little kiosks or terminals, you can actually see the emblems that you acquired already and the emblems that you've yet to acquire. So you can kind of keep track of your achievements or collections. Same thing goes for ships, and the same thing goes for shaders. Factions have changed a little bit as well. Now you have to go to the faction and accept an allegiance with them. So they'll give you like a little badge type thing that is your allegiance with them, and once you have that allegiance, you can gain reputation with that faction all the time, no matter what you're doing. Whenever you gain reputation, not only do you gain Vanguard reputation or Crucible reputation, you also gain reputation in that faction. Before I continue, one small thing that they showed on the stream was that now you can actually spin your character around when you're checking out an item that you want to purchase, or maybe just on your own character. You can actually spin your character around so you can see the gear on them and what it looks like in a 360 view. The only faction that we got to see was New Monarchy, but we did see that some new perks have been added to their gear, such as Solar Recovery and Solar Armor. So Solar Recovery, from what we saw, increases your recovery for 5 seconds after you take any splash solar damage, and Solar Armor is actually gives you more, I think, a higher armor rating while you have a Solar Super equipped. So whether it's your Gunslinger or Sunsinger, you can have that increase in armor rating. Also, the factions are now providing little packages that you can use exchange materials to exchange for these packages, whether it's weapon parts or other exchange materials that you have a lot of. You can exchange these materials with factions for gear, weapons, and stuff in general in packages. Like I said earlier, factions also have quests for you. Also, the faction packages that you receive from the Postmaster from leveling up or ranking up with these factions have gotten a little better. They now have a guaranteed legendary, strange coins, and motes of light, and a larger drop rate for shaders. Now that we've gotten past factions, let's talk a little bit about Crucible. You can pick up quests from Shaxx, and you can also pick up quests from the Crucible Quartermaster. Instead of the Crucible bounties being on the bounty tracker, you'll now see them on Lord Shaxx. Also, Shaxx has Crucible Ghosts as well. So with these bounties on Shaxx, he has 6 bounties. 5 normal bounties, like the bounties that we're used to seeing, whether it's, killing 25 Titans or killing 25 Hunters, it's the same thing like that. Except, once you complete the first 5 of those bounties in the week, that 6th one that's there is a special bounty that you can actually complete for completing the first 5, and it'll give you an unknown reward. And according to the guys from Bungie, it is a Nightfall tier reward, so you might be able to see some exotics, legendary engrams, and all that other stuff. Now, in terms of the bounties that the Crucible Quartermaster has, he has bounties based on weapons, whether it's getting 15 hand cannon kills or whatever it is, they're all weapon based. Another important thing to mention is that there will be no more Vanguard marks or Crucible marks. The only thing that we'll be seeing is legendary marks, which are basically used to buy legendaries anywhere, whether it's from the Crucible or the Vanguard or factions. You can hold up to 200 on your character. You can spend them and continue to earn them in the same week. So let's say you have 200 let's say you maxed out on your character and you have 200 legendary marks, you can spend those legendary marks and continue to earn another 200 the next day, and spend those and continue to earn the next day. It's not a 200 limit for the week.
The limit does not exist.
You can acquire legendary marks the same way that you're used to acquiring Vanguard marks and Crucible marks, whether it's from completing certain events or completing Vanguard strikes, completing weeklies, nightfalls, and also you can get legendary marks from dismantling legendary gear. Another very, very, very important thing to mention is that reputation does carry over from year 1 to year 2. So whether it's Vanguard, Cryptarch, Crucible, any factions, any reputation that you've earned so far will carry over to year 2 and the Taken King. Now let's get into exotics. So we have a few things to talk about when it comes to exotics. One new thing that we're going to be seeing in the Taken King is something called exotic blueprints. So exotic blueprints is another terminal or kiosk that you can go to where you can see all the exotics that you've ever found ever since the beginning of the game. You can basically get one of those exotics that you've acquired before whenever you want, as long as you pay the necessary amount of legendary marks. I think it's very important to mention as well that exotic blueprints are account based. So whether you found an exotic on one character or another, it doesn't matter. You'll see all of those all in one account-based exotic blueprint terminal for all of your characters. In terms of exotic weapons in general, another important thing that was pointed out was that the special perks that are in exotic weapons, for example, the perk on Bad Juju where you gain all your ammo back after every kill, those perks are now available instantly as soon as you get the exotic weapon. Another cool thing to mention about these exotics, or this new exotic update for year 2, is that there are year 2 versions of the guns we already have, which are available to you immediately as long as you have the year 1 version. So for example, let's say you have a year 1 version of Suros, you can immediately get the year 2 version of Suros as long as you pay the right amount of legendary marks. Another thing pointed out by the guys at Bungie is that the attack value on weapons was brought down to 160 instead of 365 to balance out with the defense on gear for the entire new leveling system. So if you see your guns are at 160 instead of 365, don't freak out. Now let's quickly talk about the Cryptarch. They didn't really talk too much about him and they didn't really show too much. However, all we know is that the Cryptarch now sells legendary engrams for legendary marks, and these legendary engrams will not turn into shards anymore. So you're either going with a legendary gear, legendary weapon, legendary class item, or exotics of the sort. One big thing to me was the gunsmith. They did touch on the gunsmith, and the gunsmith does have a lot more things you can go to him for. You don't have to go to him now only for rare fusion rifles or for synthesis. Now he has these things called field test weapons, which are basically guns you can almost lease, and when you kill things with them, you gain reputation with the gunsmith. What can you use this gunsmith reputation, you ask? Well, with the gunsmith reputation and with gunsmith ranks, you can get these things called foundry orders, which are basically you ordering a legendary gun, and these orders, which I think are 5 of them, reset every Wednesday, and the gun that you order doesn't come till the next Wednesday, like the most recent Wednesday. So maybe it would be smart to order these things on Tuesdays. So let's talk about Ascension. So Ascension in year 2 has now been replaced with this idea called Infuse, or maybe Infusion if you want to call it that, but it does say Infuse on your gun instead of Ascension. And all you have to do to infuse a gun and make it as powerful as it can be, to max it out, is you have to dismantle a more powerful weapon to max out the less powerful. This method of Ascension, or called Infuse, only works with year 2 legendary or exotic weapons and or armor. The last thing that I want to talk about, which was the last thing that they left, was Vault Space. Now, I'm not going to give you the runaround. Vault Space has been doubled for weapons and armor. So now you have 72 slots for weapons and armor. So that's all for today. That's all for today's Twitch reveal. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next Twitch reveal.